What's up, everybody? I'm Jesse Ziegler from Cycle News, and this is the ride review for the 2025 Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports ES DCT. Yes, the biggest adventure bike Honda makes, also has the biggest name, but if you want adventure touring fully loaded, this is the bike for you. Now, we've done a lot of reviews on Honda Africa Twins here. Heck, we've put them up against the top off-road performers in the class. We've taken them on long trips. We've been really big fans of Honda Africa Twins since 2016 when they first came out, but they're consistent, if anything. They are easy to ride. They're easy to trust. They're easy to buy. They have built-in buyer confidence from one of the most dependable brands on the planet. But they've performed really well too. They're not just simply an appliance. They really perform out there. We've put them up against, like I said, just about every bike that we can compare them to. And a lot of times they come out on top. What makes this bike special is all the extra stuff that comes on it to make it an adventure sports model. Plus, it has the additional aspects of the DCT transmission and the electronic suspension. So let's get into what makes it an Africa Twin Adventure Sports and why you might want to buy one. All right, first up, what makes an Africa Twin Adventure Sports? Well, basically it comes down to a few things that make it bigger and better for long distance travel. First of all, your fuel capacity gets bumped up to 6.6 gallons and the standard Africa Twins are at 5 gallons. Second, it has a larger windscreen and fairing on top of that bigger fuel tank. That's clearly for bigger miles, bigger days up on the open road. You want to be more protected from the wind. Third, 19-inch front spoked wheel instead of a 21-inch front wheel. So it's ditching the more off-road focused 21-inch tire and wheel combo for a more road touring friendly and honestly a little better stance setting 19-inch front wheel. Next up, exclusive on Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports is Showa's electronically equipped ride adjustment suspension, EERA for short, which honestly isn't that short. The electronic ride suspension is Adventure Sports exclusive. Smaller front wheel and you get electronic suspension. That equals lower suspension travel or less suspension travel. So the Adventure Sports is going to come with 8.3 inches up front and 7.9 inches in the rear. That's down from 9 inches up front and 8.7 inches in the rear on the standard Africa Twin. Thanks to that shorter suspension travel and that smaller front wheel, you're also going to get a lower seat height. So something that's more accessible to more riders. The seat height on this bike is about a ½ inch lower in both of the adjustment ranges. That puts it right at about 32.9 inches in the low setting to 33.7 inches in the high setting. And that's basically it. That's what defines an adventure sports. You get more fuel, you get more wind protection, you get a smaller front wheel, you get that lower electronically controlled suspension. And that's about it.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video, you're gonna love Fox's all-new collection of adventure gear. Today we're featuring the Recon, the top-of-the-line 3-layer Gore-Tex stretch fabric constructed piece. This piece features the exclusive super fabric on shoulders, elbows, and knees of the apparel to keep your abrasion resistance up. It also features fantastic ventilation vents and D30 CE Level 1 back protector and CE Level 2 shoulder, elbow, and knee protection. Check this product out and all their whole adventure collection at foxracing.com. Get back to the video and we'll feature more stuff soon.
Now, if you want to get the longest name in adventure touring, you got to get the DCT on the end of it. Now, this fully loaded one that we tested came with Honda's dual clutch transmission. That's what DCT stands for. DCT is available on any Africa Twin, but feels honestly the most at home here on the Big Daddy AT. DCT has been around for a long time, first popping up on Honda ATVs and sport touring bikes from the early 2000s. It's also at home on the Talon line of sport side-by-sides if you're familiar with those. Honda even says that approximately half of global Africa Twin sales in the world are DCT equipped. DCT is an electronically controlled hydraulic clutch system working on 2 overlapping clutches simultaneously, which sounds really complicated. And the engineering behind it is complicated. But if you start thinking about it as just clutch engagement and clutch disengagement and gear changes, it starts to make a lot of sense. First clutch controls startup, first, third, and fifth gears. And the second clutch, working alongside that, sort of parallel but opposite, only controls second, fourth, and sixth gears. So the electronic system pre-selects the upcoming gear depending on things like vehicle speed, and it even takes into consideration IMU detection. So it's pay attention to the ECU, the IMU, and also on incline and decline of the IMU data to pre-select the next gear it's going to shift to. What it does is it moves that gear through the clutch that's not engaged in drive at the moment. And then as soon as the brain tells it to shift into the other gear, the clutches basically just slip duties and one disengages and the other engages into the next active gear. DCT makes for wildly smooth shifts that are surprisingly direct. There's no miss shifts. There's no chunking between gears. There's none of that, false neutral, or maybe you're not pulling the clutch in quite all the way and it's missing the gear. It just shifts into the gear really smoothly. You don't even realize it's happening, but you feel that direct drive of a new gear change every time. Like everything on modern adventure bikes these days, DCT is also adjustable. You can control it in a few different ways. First, there are 3 modes that Honda programs. There's drive, sport, and manual. Drive is kind of what it sounds like. It's just drive, like putting your automatic car in D. It just drives, shifts for you. You don't really have to think about it. It's kind of boring, but it's kind of great on the road, and you don't really have to think about it. The sport mode gets things a little more exciting, and should I say sporty. It allows you to have higher revs before shift changes and a little more direct downshifts when decelerating. So it'll shift faster when you're decel, so you have more engine braking and a more aggressive approach. Also on accelerating, it lets those revs climb a little higher so that the gears are really getting stretched out, and then it pops into another gear, so it's a little more sporty. To make it even more sporty, you can adjust the sport mode in 3 different levels, say from kind of sporty to super sporty. Third is the manual mode. Manual basically takes the electronic pre-selection of the gear out of the equation, and it allows you to toggle between the gear changes with your finger and thumb on the left-hand side. So you can go up or down gears as you wish, and the clutch system still disengages the same way. So you don't have to worry about missing a clutch or hitting a neutral or being in the wrong gear really and dragging the clutch. It won't really let you go outside a reasonable parameter of gear change. For instance, you can't be ripping down the freeway in 6th gear and just drop it down in 1st gear all the way and do a big, clutch dragging or transmission dragging skid on the highway. It won't let you do that. Manual mode is really fun. It basically allows you to make the gear changes whenever you want. You tell the brain when to shift, and it just basically listens to you. So I really like manual mode, but I got to admit, I get lazy when I ride this bike, and I barely ever use it unless I'm just in town and I want to zip through traffic a little more directly. Most of the time, I just leave it in sport mode and just let the bike use its brain to do its thing. Interestingly, when you're in sport mode or even in drive mode, you can override the system simply by using the toggle switches to manually adjust your gears. So say you're in a traffic situation, you want to downshift a couple to zip past a semi or something like that. You can do that, override the automatic transmission sort of system that it has built in, and you can manually shift through a few gears, start riding again, and as soon as you stop manually shifting the gears, the drive mode or the sport mode will take over again and start shifting automatically for you. Like I mentioned earlier, DCT shifting is optimized by things like the onboard IMU, measuring, vehicle speed, throttle position, the gear position that it's in, and also, like I said, the incline and decline. So really it's making sort of the right shifts for you all the time without overcompensating and being too lazy. One thing you'll notice if you ride this bike the first time is you'll feel like it's shifting up really fast. Like it'll go from 1st gear at a traffic stop up to 4th and 5th gear really quick, and the RPMs are really low. Clearly, this is going to help your fuel economy. It's going to help, emissions probably, and it's probably just making the overall revs of the bike lifetime lower, so it's going to have more longevity. But if you're not used to that first time, that's the only thing you really notice about it being kind of weird, is that it shifts up really high and you're all of a sudden you're in 5th gear in town and you're like, man, I really don't think I'm in the right gear. I want to downshift and get into a smaller gear. So you can just use the manual one if you want to do that. But again, you're going to get used to it and you're going to get lazy like I did. Finally, the big sort of, black eye of DCT transmissions in the world is in off-road use. Off-road riders really want to have a lot of control with their clutch hand. They want to manipulate the clutch and spin it out and all those sort of things. You don't have that option with DCT. There is no clutch. There's a parking brake there that's way too far away to grab, so you can't even do it on accident. But what they do have in it is the G-switch. G-switch they built into DCT to essentially manipulate the level or the speed at which the clutch disengages or engages onto the gear. What it does is it reduces the amount of slip. So instead of it being more like an automatic transmission and kind of shifting through super buttery smooth, it'll allow a little more direct drive of the next gear. So for instance, if you are in an off-road situation and you want to slide the tire around something, maybe you're trying to avoid an obstacle and you want to slide it. If you utilize the G-switch setting and set that to be more aggressive so that the clutch engagement is more direct, you can do that and you'll have a little more wheel slide off-road. Think of G-switch a bit more like dropping the clutch instead of gradually releasing the clutch. That's kind of what the G-switch does. That's DCT in a nutshell. Honestly, it fits really well on the Adventure Sports Africa Twin model because this bike is big and built for touring. And if you're touring across the country or even just going out for a cruise, why not use it? It's really convenient. It's very simple, and it's really comfortable to ride, which really fits in with the whole, identity of this bike. All right, exclusive on the Adventure Sports is the EERA, or electronic suspension from Showa. EERA takes ride diagnostic info just like everything else does on these bikes, but you're talking about the ECU, the IMU, and also a stroke sensor inside the suspension components themselves. And it's going to calculate damping changes in those suspension components every 15 milliseconds. What this does is it allows Honda to pre-program 4 suspension ride modes into the system, and then they give you the option to develop your own 5th customizable mode. The pre-programmed ones are fine. They're great. And honestly, they make a lot of sense. They're named hard, mid, soft, and off-road, which doesn't take a genius to figure out what they're going to do. The harder one, harder damping, softer one, softer damping, and off-road is optimized for off-road. What makes it a little confusing is that all of those 4 modes are pre-linked to preloaded ride modes in the Honda electronic riding system. That means the modes that you select, they come preloaded with one of the pre-programmed suspension settings. And this is where the Honda Africa Twin electronic stuff starts to get a little confusing for old school motorcycle riders. It's not bad. It doesn't work bad, but it starts to get a little confusing when you're looking at the menu and you're kind of like, I want to do something different than what it's telling me to do. Then you're going to start getting into sort of the menu diagnostics of Honda's system. And that's really the only fault in this bike is that. I'll get to that later. All right, let's get into these ride modes a little bit and how they incorporate with the suspension settings. So if you think of your ride modes as planned riding scenarios on where you're going to go riding or how you're going to ride this bike, they come in 4 different modes: tour, urban, gravel, and off-road. That makes tons of sense. If you're going to go touring, put it in tour mode. If you're going to ride gravel, put it in gravel mode. If you're going to go off-road, which is not gravel, so you're talking like 2-track or up some rutted, rain-ready type of off-road stuff, the off-road setting is going to be the best for you. What those modes do is they trigger different power delivery, traction control, which Honda calls Honda Selectable Torque Control, engine braking, and ABS modes. So basically, they're going to tune all those 4 different parameters to the best performance that the Africa Twin can deliver for you. And you can see those on these little dial diagrams on the dashboard. On top of those, when you select one of those modes, Honda drops in a pre-programmed suspension mode to match it. So if you go on touring, it's going to go with the hard mode. If you're going to go gravel off-road, it's going to be softer, and so on. The confusing part about this is when you want to customize all of that. And there's a custom user mode in those ride modes like tour, urban, gravel, and off-road. There's user 1 and user 2. You can go back into the system and literally program your own ride mode to customize your power delivery, engine braking, ABS, and all that stuff. So you can have your, Joe's Best Awesome mode that will adjust all those things to your liking. And then you can also assign your own suspension setting in there in those 4 suspension modes too. On top of that, you can also change your preload electronically. So if you're going for a ride and then you're going to pick up, some firewood, or your buddy or your spouse is going to ride on the back, you can adjust your preload with the push of a button to get your suspension in the right preload setting. Now, I think Honda did a really good job with their ride modes and their pre-programmed suspension modes. I think all of them work really well, but they're far from perfect for everyone, every time, on every road or every trail you're going to ride on. So luckily, Honda gave you a system that allows you to customize it. The problem is the system that allows you to customize it. It's the only complaint that we consistently have with the Africa Twin is changing those user settings is a bit tedious. And it's, instead of 1 or 2 buttons on the dashboard, it's inside a menu, inside another menu, selecting a thing and then changing it. And then you have to do that for each one of the settings. And then you have to make sure you didn't do it wrong and you go back. You can find clear instruction on this. I'm not going to tell you how to do it right here, but you can go to Honda Power Sports YouTube channel and they're going to explain to you exactly which buttons to set, how to get in there and do it. And probably if you're owning one of these bikes more than a few months like we do here when we test them, you're going to be able to figure it out and it's not going to be an issue for you. But when we're testing bikes back to back to back and we get one that's a little bit more confusing, it stands out. And the Honda one is definitely more confusing. Not only is it a little more confusing, but it's not really like an on the fly sort of an adjustment. You can adjust any of your ride modes on the fly, but the differences in those isn't as drastic as say, KTM's rally mode where you can just adjust slip immediately, turn ABS on and off and you're ready to rip in like a bigger variable of settings. I think the final answer on our only complaint about the Africa Twin these days is that it used to be not like this. There used to be no options on Africa Twin. It literally just had like a traction control button you could turn off and an ABS button you could turn off. And then it was just like ride it wherever you want and then turn them back on if you get on the road. But this one comes with more stuff. It's got a lot more stuff on it. And honestly, all of that stuff is really great. It's just we're super picky about how we want to adjust those things. It's kind of cool that that's really our only complaint. Like this bike is big, it's easy to ride, it's basically locked and loaded to go on any adventure touring you want to do. Yeah, it's not really off-road king. Like it's not going to dominate any off-road stuff, but it's not really designed to. Like this is going to be a world touring bike that is very capable at doing big miles and do them comfortably. And I think that it's fully loaded because it's supposed to be comfortable and fun. It's not supposed to be extreme. The torque output is spirited because it has that 270-degree cam firing. So it really feels almost like a V-twin and it sounds really good. The displacement over the years has been bumped up and now it's sitting at right at 1084 cc's, which is a healthy twin, a healthy bike, and has plenty of spirit. It really lets you ride confidently between urban traffic to open road twisties. It's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto equipped. It can integrate with your smartphone and your headset. And honestly, that annoying as the dashboard is, it's a touchscreen. So you can actually do all those annoying changes that we complain about. You can do them with your finger. You don't have to go through the button menu. You can do a lot of it through your finger, which is honestly kind of a cool thing. Also cruise control, it's simple, effective, and honestly, all the little nitpicky things that we kind of harp on, they all disappear if you just want to get on the bike and ride. And that's really what the Adventure Sports is great at, filling it up with gas, adjust the windscreen if you want to block all the wind and hit the open road and you're going to be having a great time. It doesn't get hot. It doesn't get finicky. I don't think it throws error codes if it even has them. And you're going to have a dealership around every corner in just about every major town you ever come to. The final word on the Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports ES DCT, I think I got all those names right, is that it is going to be a very smooth, powerful companion. If I'm taking a trip across open roads, paved or gravel, maybe with a little bit of light off-road, this is going to be a very easy bike for me to choose. It's a great touring companion, limited only in aggressive trail riding. But it's really not that bike. It's not that bike. There's other bikes in the class that they'll do that, including the standard Africa Twin. Now, you're not going to get in the Africa Twin Adventure Sports ES DCT for cheap. This baby retails for $18,399, but you get everything Honda makes for adventure touring in one bike. Literally everything. If you want anything else, you're going to have to go to the accessories department and buy more stuff because you can't get technology in a Honda adventure bike that this bike doesn't already have on it. So go check it out at your dealer. Stay tuned to Cycle News for more reviews. Check out this story on this bike in Cycle News Magazine coming out soon, or it might even be out already. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.